good blood glucose of 104 and stable, doing pretty good. Pre-bolusing to me is a lifesaver. A little higher last night, but for the most part I'm able to stay within range and I'm noticing much flatter blood sugars. So I'm going to keep going with this pre-bolusing, but anyways, let's jump into today's video. Hi everyone, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you were all doing well. And today's video is all about kind of what you're going to experience or what to expect at your first endocrinology appointment, or endo for short. For those of you that don't have diabetes or are just diagnosed, we often refer to our endocrinologist as endos just because it's shorter. I'm going to give you a rundown kind of what I experienced with my first endocrinology appointment, and then maybe this can give you a better idea what to expect for your first one, especially if you're newly diagnosed or if you go to endocrinology for other types of issues like thyroid issues or high blood pressure issues. So my first experience with an endocrinologist was pretty good. I was diagnosed July 22nd, 2018, and I had my first endocrinology appointment on July 30th, 2018, so they were able to get me in quite quickly. Originally, I wouldn't have been able to get in until August, but they had put me on a wait list, and I was able to get in and see her right away. She was one of the only ones in my department in my area that were taking patients, so they kind of stuck me with her, and I'm kind of been stuck with her, and I've actually really enjoyed having her, so I hope to continue to stick with her as much as possible. But the first thing they get from you is, obviously when you go in, they're going to check your height, your weight, and do your blood pressure, all your basic vitals. It's often done by like a medical assistant or a nurse. And then the nurse or medical assistant will often take some family history or update your records, etc., etc. And then you wait, and the endocrinologist comes in, and they introduce themselves, kind of maybe explain what role they're going to play in you being with whatever you have, or having type 1 diabetes. You're going to be seeing them a few times a year. They're basically going to monitor your insulin dosing, get you on new medical devices like a Dexcom, like I am on, a pump. They're going to introduce you to new ways to test your blood sugar, etc. They're going to give you all the latest and greatest with that. They're probably going to take a family medical history from you also, ask if anybody else in your family has diabetes, if anybody else in your family has other issues like heart issues, blood pressure issues, any other like could be genetically componented medical issues. They're definitely going to want to take note on that because type 1 diabetes can also drag along with it other things. So they want to be wary of that. I know when I go in every time too, you get to fill out this questionnaire when you're in the waiting room asking if you've like had weight loss, psychological problems like depression. They ask if you've had any other crazy physical symptoms like vision changes, dry skin, anything that you can think of. It's probably on that list. Problems with breathing, overall well-being isn't good, because they're going to try to see if there's an underlying condition that they can solve first. Then with me, like, she kind of explained to me, like, you know, this is not your fault. Type 1 diabetes isn't your fault. This is nothing you did. You're going to be kind of just going along with me. We're going to put you on the best medication for you. We're going to get you on some technology eventually here and get you going to get you in a healthier and more easier way to manage this disease and live your life. So right off the bat, she made a good first impression with me. She was just kind, friendly, was able to answer a lot of my questions. As far as like managing and stuff, they go over like, for me, your insulin to carb ratios, they go over your basal rates, they go over if medications you take and whether or not you like them, and then maybe they could switch you over to something else. They often too will check your heart rate and your breathing and make sure that's okay. They often too, like my endocrinologist checks my feet once per year with a little device. It's like a little wire that they put around your feet with your eyes closed to see if you can feel different parts of your foot. And if you can feel this little wire moving around different parts of your foot, light sensitivity, that means that you're not having any neuropathy damage that they can tell of to begin with. Often, too, they will order other tests. Like, for me, they immediately ordered, like, the antibody tests. They ordered the C-peptide, thyroid, hemoglobin A1C. Those are the that's the doctor that's typically going to order that. Typically, they will also put in the prescriptions you need for diabetes management, like the insulin, the test strips, the needles, the lancets, the pens, the whatever you use. The Dexcom sensors, the CGM sensors, they're going to be the ones that typically handle that. So that's something you're going to probably expect at your first appointment. You're going to get a lot of that straightened out. You're going to get introduced to new technologies. You're going to get a good feel for where you're standing as far as your health. And at least with me, they were just very happy to have me. They get to know you a little bit. They kind of asked me some questions about what I like to do so that they get to, at least she got to know me more on a personal level. So every time I go in, like, how are you going with this? Or how's this going in your life? They usually start that up. So they kind of get to be more on a personal level with you. And a doctor that you can get with on a personal level, hang on to them. They're great. Obviously, doctors are humans too. They're not just some medical robot that labels off different medical terms and medical illnesses and what to do with them. They should also be a human. They should have some emotional compatibility with you too to kind of get you feeling more comfortable. She also introduced me to the diabetes nurses that I was to work with, dealing with training as far as pumps and CGMs, and I can also turn to them for any insulin dosing concerns I might have. Diabetes nurses can make some insulin dosing decisions, however, that they have to report that back to the doctor. They cannot just themselves say, okay, decrease this by this or increase this by this. They will tell you that, and then they will say, I will refer back to your endocrinologist to see if they're okay with this. And oftentimes, if they're not, they'll report back and say, no, they would rather me try this with you. So you kind of get the feel for the whole endocrinology team, kind of what to expect from endocrinology services. That's kind of how my first endocrinology experience went. They also might refer you to different doctors. For me, she referred me to a nutritionist, and she also referred me to go get a diabetic eye exam, or recommended I get one, so I got that set up, so now that's all good. She could also refer me to other doctors if she noticed any other concerns, like with my skin or my heart or my lungs. She might refer me to a totally different specialist to see if there's any other problems that would be further investigated that could be associated with diabetes or poor blood sugar control. So they're definitely people that you want to hang on to. If you don't have an endocrinologist or you're scared to go to one, go to one. Even if you go see one just once a year, it's better than not, because they truly are the ones that are more educated on diabetes. Not saying primary care doctors are bad, but I feel like you're better off having specialists dealing with a certain disease or a certain condition that are better equipped and knowledge and have more knowledge and wisdom on this disease. Whereas a general primary care doctor is probably just going to have a general knowledge in everything. An endocrinologist, especially since diabetes, not saying type 1 diabetes is extremely common, but it's probably more common than some other types of diseases. So they're probably going to know a lot about diabetes. Now, knowing that they know a lot about diabetes doesn't mean you don't know a lot about diabetes. You probably know your own body better than they do. So when you go back for future appointments, I will kind of just briefly touch on this. Express your concerns, express what you think your medication should be at, how you've been feeling, what you think you should do for next steps. Express that to them, communicate with them, because obviously your health is important, and if they're dragging their feet when it comes to getting you the best technology, or they're not switching you to a medication that might help you, or a new insulin that might be better for you, or at least not exploring it, push them. Oftentimes they just go with the flow, but sometimes they don't. Find yourself a good endocrinologist that you feel you can trust and you feel you can dive into with different topics. Allow them to point you to different resources and different doctors if they ask you to. They're often really good too with dealing with the insurance and the medical suppliers when it comes to diabetes, so they're often a good resource to ask questions for too. I definitely have asked plenty of questions about insurance with my endocrinologist, and they've been able to handle some of that quite well. Not saying they're going to be perfect, but they can at least point you in the right direction as far as where to get going with that. So, anyways, that's kind of what I did with my first endocrinology appointment. It took about an hour. And now when I go back in, it's 30 to 45 minutes for a follow-up visits that I've had since. And oftentimes you just pay a specialty copay if you have insurance. It's not really the worst thing in the world. I don't mind going to my endocrinology appointments, especially knowing too that, you know, you get closer and closer to finding these different technologies. You get closer and closer to finding better ways to treat your diabetes, and they might even, like I said, talk about things that you didn't even hear of. Because they're always trying to keep up to date. Most of them will try to keep as up to date as possible with the newest technology. But I was kind of thrown an endocrinologist, and I'm sticking with her so far. I did kind of have one unpleasant experience with the whole team in general, and it wasn't her fault. She was on vacation, but I will explain that in a later video when it comes to me talking about this experience. Totally not her fault, so I'm not going to place blame or leave her because of that. She had no clue what was going on. So, I got my apologies and whatnot. But anyways, that's all I have to say for this video. Kind of a rambly video, but I hope it gave you a better idea what to expect at your first endocrinology appointment. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you do decide to subscribe, you can turn on that notification bell next to the subscribe button so you never miss when I upload something new. And until tomorrow's video, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. Bye, everyone.